tonight. NDP leader Carla Beck speaks as she gathers her now much larger caucus. As Saskatchewan prepares to mark Remembrance Day, one creative way of honoring vets is taking root. And as the Riders and Bombers meet in the West Final, the first all-Saskatchewan Hardy Cup matchup in over 20 years will hit the field.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Friday, November 8th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams, in for Sam McKeag. Thanks for joining us. NDP leader Carla Beck is speaking out for the first time since the provincial election, and her caucus met for the first time as well as they prepare for the upcoming legislative session. Beck says her opposition will be focused on the big issues that prompted people to vote, including healthcare and education. She said she's also hearing concerns about Premier Scott Moe's newly appointed cabinet, mostly around Jeremy Cockrell's promotion from Education Minister to Health Minister.
The one standout, and certainly I've heard this from healthcare workers, from people already in terms of feedback, real concerns about the selection of Minister Cockrell in health. This is someone who did not have a reputation for working with frontline workers. We saw when he was the Minister of Education, the longest teachers' dispute in the province. This is a province that has lost more healthcare workers than any other province. We need someone who is focused on working with those frontline workers, working with healthcare workers.
Beck says she looks forward to building her shadow cabinet over the coming days. The NDP will be Saskatchewan's largest opposition in nearly 2 decades, filling 27 seats. Meanwhile, the Saskatchewan Party government's new caucus was unveiled this week. There are fresh faces and a few familiar ones taking on new cabinet positions. Here's what the political panel on CBC Radio's The Morning Edition had to say about Cabinet's new look.
Well, it's smaller, first of all, so it went from 18 to 16. That includes the premier. The second thing that really stands out is that every single person got shuffled. So Murray and I were just talking before we came in here, and Murray's been around a long time, the age of dinosaurs, a long time. And he can't remember a time where this happened. So I think that raised a lot of eyebrows. The other thing that's going to stand out to people is Jeremy Cockrell and Everett Hindley swapping portfolios. So Cockrell goes from education to health and Hindley goes from health to education. Terry Jensen gets moved to social services. He used an MLA briefly, was a cabinet minister, replacing Joe Hargrave. So a lot of sort of headline grabbing moves, not to the least of which is everyone shuffling.
I was looking at the Premier's post about his new cabinet on Facebook, and the most commented on person was Jeremy Cockrell, former education minister. What do you make of this shuffling?
Yeah, as you know, I built cabinets. And a lot of them look like this.
You're a real woodworker.
Yeah, no, there's 6 guys laughing uproariously at that joke right now. So yeah, that probably does look like a Mandra cabinet. But no, Cockrell moving upwards is surprising to a lot of people. And I think, as Adam mentioned, the switcheroo, none of us really understand, because we thought Everett Hindley was doing a pretty yeoman's work in a tough portfolio, which health is, which makes this even stranger, because this is a person that hasn't exactly shined when it's been empathy towards stakeholders, and that's the big thing, politically speaking, in health. Plus, you have to deal with a lot of smart doctors that know a lot more than you do, and I don't know if he's the right fit for that. That said, there was a lot of things that Scott Moe did that I think under the circumstances were the right things to do. And one of them, of course, was moving Tim McLeod to justice, to mend fences with the judiciary, the legal community, send a message basically that they take the law seriously and maybe won't be quite so cavalier with a notwithstanding clause, or even, quite frankly, breaking the law, as one might argue happened with the Sask energy rebates and such. So I think there is messages not only being sent to the public, as Scott Moe talked about, more so than anything, almost more so than the Cockrell thing, or maybe Jeremy Harrison not being government House Leader anymore, or Economic Minister, which was a humbling message. Cockrell moving up wasn't. That humbling theme was sort of very interesting, and it was really articulated in terms of the change room policy.
Yes.
I heard stuff from Scott Moe yesterday that I hadn't heard in a long time, both in tone and substance.
And while the dust has almost settled on the provincial election, civic elections are just days away, and we will have live coverage once the polls close. You can stream Saskatchewan Decides 2024 on our website or our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel. We will have results from communities across the province, analysis from outgoing councillors, and we will hear from some newly elected candidates too. It all starts at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, November 13th. Canada's unemployment rate remained at 6.5% in October, according to today's monthly report from Statistics Canada. The 15,000 jobs added to the economy weren't enough to alter last month's rate. The rise in wages continued, with the hourly average almost 5% higher than last October. Still, today's report found almost 29% of those over 15 were living in a household struggling to meet financial needs. Today is National Indigenous Veterans Day, and organizations lowered their flags to pay tribute to Indigenous veterans. 2 Saskatchewan women are among them. They used the Jay Treaty to enlist in the United States Air Force and Navy. That treaty allows Indigenous people from Canada to move to the U.S. to join the military. Kathleen Robinson was a staff sergeant who served as an aircraft electrical systems specialist. She's also the first Indigenous woman to hold that position.
My mom was a really amazing woman. She was fearless. She was someone who really cared about the world and the community and was so giving in that way. She was willing to sacrifice for the betterment of everybody else.
I was willing to put my life on the line for our country, just like all the other men that did the same thing. And it wasn't because I was a woman or not. It's just a decision that I made, and I'm glad that I made it, and I would make it again, and I would do it over and over again if I had to.
Cody is now a representative of the Saskatchewan First Nations Veterans Association. National Indigenous Veterans Day was first commemorated in Winnipeg 30 years ago. And there are many other events and ceremonies planned to mark Remembrance Day, but there are also ongoing and creative efforts to recognize the sacrifices made. Bonnie Allen has the story of one that's taking root in Saskatchewan.
These 2 men are meeting for the first time at a cenotaph, a monument that honors fallen soldiers, but they're connected by another kind of tribute. New plant varieties named after veterans.
Honestly, it's incredible, that the yellow pea would be named after me. It's something that was totally unexpected.
His first name given to a new pea variety by FP Genetics. The Canadian company is owned by more than 170 seed growers and farm operators. CEO Chris Turco says a few years ago they were having trouble finding names for new kinds of wheat, barley, lentils, and other crops.
And it's quite difficult to get a name onto a variety because the rule is one variety, one name, and this applies globally. So, if you have a new wheat variety and you come up with a name, the federal government basically searches the world to find out if a wheat variety already exists with that name.
Then someone flipped open a book about Canadian war heroes and found Frederick Hodge. The young soldier landed on Juno Beach, was taken prisoner, and later executed.
When you start to think back in time and all the people that have made sacrifices for you, we picked the name of somebody that none of us knew, none of us had ever met, never knew his story, read the biography, learned a bit about his history, and we put his name onto something that's going to be here forever. There will only be one wheat named AAC Hodge.
The company partnered with the Saskatchewan Legion to name all new seed varieties after veterans, 20 so far, including bomber pilot Reg Harrison, who survived 4 plane crashes.
I was born and raised on a farm.
Now 103, the Saskatchewan farm boy is thrilled.
Great honor to have a yellow pea named after me.
Different varieties you've created that are resistant to different diseases.
Julius Brown is a Vietnam veteran who now works for the Canadian Mental Health Association. He helps armed forces members and first responders with PTSD.
I never imagined there being a field of Juliuses, but it's a wonderful feeling.
Brown says he's happy to be honored by an industry that's also helping people with food security. Bonnie Allen, CBC News.
Well, another gorgeous day in the Queen City. We have come a long way since that midweek blast of snow and chilly temperatures. The perfect day to hit the trails for a walk with the dog or on your own. As for the weekend, a bit of a mixed bag is in store. Riley Lachuk will be here with your full forecast when we come back. Welcome back. It is a giant weekend for football in Saskatchewan. First up, it's a university football matchup for the history books. The University of Saskatchewan Huskies will face the University of Regina Rams in the Hardy Cup for the first time since 2002. Dan Plaster has more on the championship game.
It's an all-Saskatchewan battle for the CanadaWest Football Championship that's 22 years in the making. The University of Regina Rams upset the Manitoba Bisons with an epic last-minute drive for the 28-25 victory last weekend. The University of Saskatchewan Huskies pulled off an upset of their own by heading into Vancouver and knocking off the UBC Thunderbirds 38-33 with their own last-minute heroics. It will be the third time that these teams have met this season, with each winning a game, setting up a historic battle that means more than just provincial bragging rights.
It just happens to be us in Regina because we both did enough last week to win, to give us that opportunity. So yeah, I mean, listen, you know, as we always say with provincial stuff, and you know, you can throw the records out the window, you know, because the regular season at the end of it doesn't matter right now. We gotta worry about being at our best for 3 hours on Saturday.
Oh, it's great, especially that dogfight with UBC. We get rewarded with the home Hardy, so that's awesome. It should be a big crowd because two Saskatchewan teams, but it's awesome.
It's a battle of the province, you know, so it's definitely good. It's an opponent that we know, that we faced many times, especially for myself in my career here with the Huskies. So it's definitely going to be a good matchup, a definitely physical one too.
It definitely means a lot more when you're playing against the guys you grew up with. Obviously, there's a couple of Regina kids on that team that obviously left us to go up to Saskatoon. So you want to give it to them, show them that they should have came here, kind of thing.
I think it'll bring out the best in both teams. I think it's the best. It's like the trilogy for the Hardy Cup. I think you couldn't really draw it up any better as a CanWest scenario to play U of S in the final. So I think it'll bring the best of both teams, especially on defense, brings out the aggressiveness and the hype, which you can play more of when you're a defensive player. So I think it'll be exciting.
It's an exciting time for Saskatchewan. Obviously, we want to keep seeing the Riders win, and we want to win. We don't want U of S to represent Sask. We want it to be the Rams, and so hopefully a Rider win on Saturday and a Rams win on Saturday. That'd be a good Sunday morning.
And game number 2 gets underway just a few hours later. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are in Winnipeg to play the Bombers in the West Final. It's no secret these two teams are fierce CFL rivals, and we caught up with Riders historian Rob Vanstone for a preview of what's to come.
Long-standing, intense, unpredictable. It's everything you could want in a rivalry. This one has that little bit extra given the proximity of the locations of the teams and I think the commonalities between the organizations. It just has everything you could want in a rivalry, including noise. It's going to be loud on Saturday. It always feels right for these teams to play each other. Even in the preseason, you get that kind of vibe. But you know, when you look at the success Winnipeg has had in recent years, and 4 straight division titles and 2 Grey Cups since 2019, and you look at that, how closely these teams have played one another this year. You know, and having been in Winnipeg for the Labor Day rematch this year, and seeing that game go down to the wire, and experiencing how loud it was and how much of a buzz there was in that stadium, I can't imagine the degree to which it's going to be elevated on Saturday. And you know, Trevor Harris and various other people in the Rider organization have said that it's, you know, Winnipeg has earned the right to play host to this game, and I think if they are going to be dethroned, I think it's only right that it happened there. Every play could be a game changer, could be a season ender could be a season extender, and that just adds to the allure of it from a spectator standpoint. Both participants know that by the end of the day, they're either going to be dealing with an emotional extreme, either be just elated or down, and there's no middle ground. And so you consider those stakes, you consider the emotion that you hope to feel and experience, and I think all of that is packed into everything for every play. It's going to be an epic battle, I think.
And there was a big announcement today for CFL fans in Calgary. The city is set to host the 113th Grey Cup in 2026.
We are planning a spectacle. Whether this is your first Grey Cup, or maybe you've never seen football before, or maybe you've been to 50 consecutive Grey Cups, because we have lots of fans that have done that. We are planning something for everybody, and we are planning on delivering an experience that you won't forget.
This weather update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz Regina, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
Well, a gorgeous evening as the sun goes down in Regina tonight with a lot of sunshine and some very warm temperatures. So is this all going to hold up for our weekend? Well, weather specialist Riley Lachuk is here with the answer. Hi, Riley.
So, Ethan, I'll start with a look at the forecast for the West Final, of course, happening in Winnipeg tomorrow. Looking at a temperature of about 8 degrees when that game gets underway at 5:30 in the afternoon. Winds not too much of a factor either, so we're looking at actually pretty pleasant conditions in Winnipeg for football tomorrow. Okay, back to our weather. Today, some very warm temperatures, again, above seasonal for this time of the year. 14 in Swift Current, 16 in Maple Creek. You might think that's encroaching on a bit of a record, but we did get into the 20s a few years back in the southwestern part of the province. So not quite record territory, but certainly warm temperatures today. 15 in Saskatoon, Regina getting to 12 degrees. So we've been under this ridge of high pressure that is built in the jet stream that's really cleared us out, really brought in a lot of sunshine and some very warm southerly temperatures and warm conditions as we've gotten throughout the afternoon hours today. That will change as we get into the weekend. You'll see why here. So if we look at Futurecast into the morning hours tomorrow, you start to see a little bit of cloud cover starting to build into central parts of the province. Even into Saskatoon, I think cloudy with sunny breaks to start the morning tomorrow, but for the rest of southern Saskatchewan, looking at mainly sunny conditions for the most part tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds. But yeah, I did mention a bit of a change on the way. This is an area of low pressure moving in from Alberta. This looking to bring some snow, some rain to central parts of the province as we get through the later part of Saturday and into Sunday. So you can see that dividing line between the snow and the rain along that Highway 16 corridor. Saskatoon, at least according to this forecast model, escaping some of that rain through the later part of Saturday. I think the best chance for some flurries, though, comes early into Sunday morning for Saskatoon. Again, really temperature dependent, because by this time Sunday morning will be right on that freezing mark. So some of this could be falling as rain or some wet snow, but certainly through places like Prince Albert and north, and even into the Parkland region, looking at some of this falling as snow as we get through the later part of Saturday and through the day on Sunday. Timing this out, in terms of snowfall, we are looking at accumulations really through the Battlefords, Prince Albert, into the Hudson Bay region in that 2 to 5 centimeter range. Most of this, like I said, sort of Battleford south into Saskatoon falling as rain to the tune of likely 2 to 5 millimeters. So we are looking at a little bit of wet weather through central parts of the province. Still Regina tomorrow getting to 10 degrees, falling off a bit on Monday as we see some breezy conditions moving in, and then still staying above seasonal for this time of the year. But look at these nighttime lows getting a little bit closer to that seasonal mark and below the freezing mark as we get into next week. Saskatoon looking at increasing clouds tomorrow, a high of 10. There's that risk of some flurries or some showers in the early part of Sunday. And Ethan, we're staying above seasonal as we get through next week as well.
Sounds great. Thanks, Riley.
What we got, Ray Gunn?
Australian breakdancer Rachel Gunn, also known as Ray Gunn, is retiring from the sport. Her unique moves gained global attention and backlash at the Paris Olympics. She failed to score a single point at the Games. Gunn says she finds competing too difficult. Stay with us. We're back after the break. Every year in Martinsville, a special Remembrance Day display honors veterans through the dedication of one woman. We take a closer look at the annual tribute and how it brings the community together.
And I do other displays, like Christmas displays and Halloween displays and that. And I thought this was the one that was missing in everybody's yard. My kids used to play for the 96 Highlanders, and so they always would go and play the pipes. And my daughter danced in that too for Remembrance Day at all the different places in Saskatoon. So I think that's where it kind of stems from. During COVID, there was a veteran that came here, and he had written a poem that had never gone anywhere, and it was about going to war. And he said, I think that you're the perfect person to do something with it. So it's on the fence at the back. During COVID, Sherbrooke Homes had come here, and some of the veterans had been brought out in their wheelchairs. So that was kind of cool. They were hanging onto my hand, and they thanked me for doing this. And it was supposed to be about them, not me. So it was kind of, I didn't expect that. I feel like everybody goes from Halloween and they jump right into Christmas, and they're missing such a big part, you know, like of why we're all free. I set up with the green, and I take down in the white. Yeah, so it looks beautiful in the green, but it looks beautiful in the snow.
And you can watch the CBC News Live Remembrance Day special on Monday, starting at 9 a.m. on CBC News Network and at 10 on CBC's main channel. It will also be live on CBC Radio 1 at 10:55.
All right, we'll start with a look at your forecast highs across the province for your Saturday. Looking at double digits once again for much of southern Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, Regina, both getting to 10 degrees. This will be by later afternoon tomorrow. Assiniboia at 12, Yorkton at 11, but where we see that cloud starting to build in earlier in the day, single digits through the Battlefords into Kindersley at 9 tomorrow afternoon. So for Regina, first thing in the morning, looking at -1 to start, sunrise at 8:03, partly cloudy skies. We're looking at a mix of sun and clouds throughout the afternoon hours tomorrow, 8 by noon, 9 by 4 o'clock, looking at a high of 10 by the time that sun sets just after 5 o'clock. In Saskatoon, we're looking at 0 for the morning tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds once again with that sunrise just after 8 at 8:17. Noon, a mix of sun and clouds, and a pleasant 9 through the afternoon tomorrow, Ethan, before we start to see some of that wet weather moving in.
All right, thank you, Riley. And that is it for us tonight. For News Anytime, you can head to our website, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.